Well, so this afternoon, the Ghana Police Service has come under intense criticism for failing to pursue nearly all cases of attacks on journalists across the country. Reporters Without Borders, in its latest press freedom ranking, indicates that the safety of journalists has deteriorated sharply in recent years. In 2020, reporters covering the effectiveness of anti-COVID-19 measures, for instance, were attacked by security forces, and political leaders equally making death threats against investigative journalists. These martyrs have been captured in the reports. Well, President of the Ghana Journalist Association, Afil Moni, earlier today called out the police service for failing to pursue cases involving journalists.
Because of Ghana's latest ranking in the World Press Freedom Index, which is depressing enough to effect dramatic mood swings from one of celebration to that of lamentation. Indeed, a drop in ranking had been anticipated due to a confluence of anti-media factors, but never did we expect the drop to be so precipitous, third in Africa and 10th in the world, and 30th in the world to 60th, a 100% decline. We watched with shudder and heard with shiver the merciless arrests, reckless attacks, and animalistic disregard for the rights of journalists, even in the line of duty. The deterministic outcome has been a sharp deterioration of the safety of journalists. That threat reigned on investigative journalists also went uninvestigated, let alone punished, while law enforcement officers who were supposed to protect journalists rather brutalize them. 3 years on the spin, the assassination of Ahmed Swale of Tiger Eye fame, in the most heinous of circumstances, has been a stain on Ghana's reputation as a land of freedom and justice, a citadel of media freedom, and a beacon of democratic accomplishments in Africa. Assurance upon assurance of arresting the perpetrators have remained a hollow rhetoric. With regrets that the broadcasting bill designed to address some of the lingering challenges on the airwaves has been incubating for far too long. While we urgently demand the birth of the proposed law, either by natural or cesarean means, we need to orchestrate a national conversation to take a hard look at the ownership structure of the media.
Well, so these are the concerns of the Ghana Journalists Association. Obviously, that questions the Ghana Police Service and what it is that the service has been doing to ensure safety of journalists. In fact, all of these martyrs were captured in the reports by Reporters Without Borders in the latest press freedom ranking. Joining us now is a security analyst, Dr. Adam Bona, who's helping us to understand the security perspectives and implications of this matter. Good afternoon to you, sir. Many thanks for joining us here on The Pulse. So I'm sure that you've read the report yourself, the one that talks about specifically about the safety of journalists. And it goes ahead to point out how the police service has failed to pursue cases involving attacks on journalists. What's your reading into all of these findings that are coming up?
Well, yes, good afternoon and good afternoon to your viewers. It's difficult to take the report as it's been delivered from a very not so good situation to one of the, the worst since probably the fourth Republican whatever took place. You are talking about from 30 to about 60. And you have countries like Niger, Sierra Leone, and several other countries. Burkina Faso has been in turmoil for a very long time. You take a country like Cote d'Ivoire. Cote d'Ivoire hasn't been very stable for a while. And so if all these countries are rated better than us when it comes to press freedom, then I would say that A country without good press freedom is doomed to fail. And so this rating is something that we need to look at as a people. It's important we look at it well and look at the factors that has culminated into this bad rating. And if you look at the report, they have raised issues about, investigations that probably have stalled or has been ongoing forever. And one that comes to mind that we all point to is the killing of Ahmed Swale and the fact that as we speak, no one has really been arrested. I would say that we have a new police administration. The new police administration would have to put all hands on the wheel and probably go back into most of these cases. I don't want to call them cold cases, and investigate them thoroughly. And definitely someone committed that crime. That person is living amongst us. And I have no doubt the police, don't have what it takes to arrest them. Latif was assaulted. And we have a new police administration. I am confident that the new police administration should do well so that next year around May, when we have a report against World Press Freedom Day, Ghana's, rating would be better.
And Dr. Bona, that's why, for instance, you have the Ghana Journalists Association questioning the leadership of the IGP. It's by far the first black spot on his track record, what we know him to have stood for all this while, the fact that he would go all out and ensure that cases are brought to its conclusive end. However, in this report, it appears that the police is not interested in cases involving journalists. What are the factors, in your view, accounting for such a development?
Well, I am not sure whether the police is not interested in cases that involve journalists. At least since the report was released, my own conversation with the top hierarchy of the Ghana Police Service indicate that it looks like some of these cases were not initially properly investigated. And anyone who understands the way manner investigations are done, the way, information, crime scene management and all that, the first respondents to some of these areas, if they fail to pick vital information, it means that you have to reconstruct what took place. And plus, minus, you might be successful, you might not be successful. For instance, you take the case of Latif. Your colleague Latif, who was brutalized, and I think he has a fracture in the skull.
Precisely.
And up to now, we don't know who committed that heinous crime, against that young man. And this happened at the forecourt, I think, at the police headquarters somewhere there. My point is that once, those who are supposed to be dealing with this case from the word go fail to investigate it thoroughly, those who take over, as in the current IGP and his team, then it becomes very difficult to say, or else you will go and start bundling people together, and that would,
Dr. Bona,
to...
this is the Ghana Police Service. It's an institution.
Yeah, it is. I'm not holding brief for them. But what I'm saying is that we should press them and ask them, go back into your archives, find out who were dealing with these cases, because most of those who are dealing with these cases are still alive. They are still there, even if they've gone on retirement. Bring them back. Let them bring the docket, go into the docket. And I am told that they've started some investigations, but I'm also told that there's some difficulty here and there. I think that it will be a call on the IGP and his team now to ensure that the wrongs that were written in the past, and he has inherited, he would ensure that it is properly written today, or else to 2023, we might have, something that would be worse than we are seeing, because then some countries have done worse, and we thought that when you talk about beacon of democracy in the sub-region in Africa, Ghana, we've never faced any civil disobedience or civil unrest or any of those things. It looks like it's becoming something that is on paper, but in reality, if you look at this report, for me, it doesn't speak well to what we pride ourselves to be.
In fact, this conversation is just starting. Let's also bring in Peter Lonchinitubu, who was one time at the very high echelons of the Ghana Police Service, served as aide to the previous IGP, and he understands a lot of the issues happening there at the Ghana Police Service. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thank you so much, my brother, for having me.
Welcome to the program. Now, first of all, are you surprised that the latest press freedom report is indicating that nearly all cases involving attacks on journalists have not been pursued by the Ghana Police Service?
Thank you very much once again. Let me say good afternoon to our cherished listeners, and then also a very good afternoon to my brother, Adam Bonner. I always say a brother in successful business is a brother lost. I think he's doing so well now, and I hardly find him. Probably after this, I'm sure they'll give me a call to see if I can locate him to say hello. What has been released, for me, I am not surprised. One thing we have to take note of is the fact that a journalist is seen as a representative of the people, is a mouthpiece of the people. The police can arrest 20 people. When you go and arrest one journalist, it's like the whole Ghana is in trouble. The police can investigate 20 murders. When one single journalist is murdered, it is seen to be an attack on press freedom. So if you find one single case involving a journalist that has gone cold, joining the class of cold cases, it is quite worrying, because it seems the understanding of many of the local people, including my people in Wa, when you talk about democracy, they will tell you it means yele kan yele. Yele kan yele in Wale simply means kabimami kabi in tree. So when you're talking about a democracy that is promoting kabimami kabi, it is virtually about the freedom to say what you want to say, the freedom to express yourself. So if that freedom is being affected in a way, curtailed in a way, I'm sure that everybody will begin to realize it has a negative consequence on our democracy. So looking at what has transpired in the past 1 year, I wasn't surprised. What shocked me most was the deep drop from 30th position to 60th position.
Right.
That is huge, and it's quite scary for me.
But what's also surprising is that you were there at the Ghana Police Service when some of these cases happened. For instance, the murder of Ahmed Swale, for instance, you were there as well. Are you surprised that till date, the police service, which you left, is not able to conclude on some of these cases?
One professional, I will tell you, I'm not surprised. There are two things. The Ghana Police Service, as I don't speak for them, the Ghana Police Service will have to up its game to ensure that they win back public confidence. And I think that the new Inspector General of Police is on track to winning back public confidence into the police service. Number two, the Ghana Police Service must be resourced enough to be scientifically up to task, so that if you are talking about the science in criminal investigation, they will be on top of their issues. If you are talking about the skills, the human skills for criminal investigations, the criminal investigators will be properly trained. And if you are also talking about the support of the local people to effective policing, the local people or the local population have gotten so much confidence in the police that they'll be willing to go at all lengths to support the police and unravel all the mysteries. So if you're able to get these three key things together, public confidence, scientific policing, and last but not the least, a well-trained police officer.
But for Sam, you are actually leaving out one of the most critical aspects, which has got to do with the issue of political interference, for instance. The politicians are almost playing games with these kind of cases, you agree?
Yeah, if you talk about political interference, I can tell you as a matter of fact, a well-trained professional police officer, it doesn't matter what the politician does. He can possibly get the results for the politician by being professional. Sometimes it's just out of ignorance. If a politician says, I want 3, and I want it 1 + 2 to give me 3, the professional can do it 1 + 1 + 1 and still give you the answer 3. And the 1 + 1 + 1 is actually the professional procedure. The professional is not going to jump the gun and do the 1 + 3 for you. But he will still get an answer that is supposed to help build the nation. Basically, the politicians should also be interested in building Ghana. If the politician's interest is all about suffocating the Ghanaian people, if the politician's interest is all about violating the rights of the citizenry, and the police officer in his professional sense supports that, then both of them are promoting undemocratic practices, and that is dangerous for our democracy going forward.
Again, Dr. Bona at this moment. Dr. Bona, the key concern has been about politics, executive influence into the activities of the police service. And that, for many, and some within the media itself, is affecting how the police service is able to deal with some of these cases.
Yes, let me also say good afternoon to my brother, Honorable Peter Tuobu Lanchene. He's a big brother. He's a brother. He's doing well for the constituency. So, but we'll meet, when this is done. Going back to your question, listen, political interference, as we speak, there is some amount of political interference that is hindering the performance of even the current police administration. I mean, there are certain things some of us cannot say, but you see, the police does prosecutions on behalf of the Attorney General, or on behalf of the Attorney General. If a docket is sent to the Attorney General's department, and the Attorney General decides to say, no, leave it, they can't do anything. And I can tell you that there's been some cases that I'm aware of. I don't want to talk about them. Some politically charged cases that I know that the police are supposed to be in court today. And those cases have been, the dockets are sent and they are asked to, they are supposed to. And so political interference is one of the many factors, as my brother alluded to. It's one of the many factors that is hindering the performance of the police. So yes, maybe I will depart a bit from my brother who rose to be a senior officer before retiring and serving the people the people in the Upper West. Mine is that as we speak today, if the politicians will do a hands-off from the current police dispensation, the current police dispensation will probably unravel most of these cases. But the truth is that if you have to prosecute, and the guy you are prosecuting on his behalf tells you that, what do you do? Because then professionally, this thing should end up in court. But he says that, let's leave it. I will not mention any name, but you guys should look at some of the cases that are supposed to have been going to court and they haven't gone. And so mine is that if the politicians, he is a member of parliament, a member of the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament. He is a member. I think we expect all of them. My brother, who used to be a police officer, well-experienced officer. These are some of the things they should be discussing in Parliament. The executive should have hands off. The legislative arm should have hands off from the police. Once they do that, all these things you see, because you know what? You would have sometimes a police officer assault a journalist. And this case, that police officer probably is supported by some big weight politician, or even a politician might have sent him. And he's supposed to be prosecuted. That docket would end up at the Attorney General's department. If it ends up in the Attorney General's department, no holding brief for anybody. But what I'm saying is that we need to look at this ranking and say, enough is enough. We want a situation where we would have an independent, resourceful police. As we speak, the police we need a lot of resources for the police. As we speak, how many crime scene detectives do they have? Crime scene is a science. If a crime should happen today in the Upper West, a crime should happen, let's say a homicide should happen in Northeast, should happen in most of these regions. They have to send a crime scene investigators from Accra to the region. And anything beyond 48 hours, you are likely to lead to you lose a lot of vital information. So we need to have a comprehensive information.
Right, because we don't have all of the time, the report is still indicating very clearly that politicians are still in that habit of threatening journalists across the country. What's your expectation from the law enforcement agencies going forward?
Well, I think that when a journalist is threatened, the IGP has shown class. He's shown that his knife cuts both left and right, as far as I'm concerned. And I am happy when I see him do that. When you are threatened as a journalist, and he's been adequate enough, he will call you, talk to you himself, or maybe even visit you. Report it. Once you report, I am sure that whoever this politician is will be arrested. Some politicians, we used not to see that. Under his dispensation, some politicians have been arrested for traffic violations, have been arrested for other infractions. So I think that let's begin to see how we can work with the police. But confidence building, like my brother, Honorable Peter Lanchene Tuobu said, the police needs to do as they are doing, do more to let the populace believe in them and believe that they are going to help Ghanaians reach wherever we want to reach in terms of press freedom and our peace index as well, and security index.
Dr. Bona is a security analyst. Let's wrap up with you, Peter Tobu-Lonchene. At the parliamentary level, are you studying this report, and what are you likely to trigger at your level?
Thank you very much. I've gone through this report, and in fact, at the Supreme Court, I met my ranking member on Defense and Interior. We had a discussion. I'm sure that when Parliament resumes, we were going to take a look at it and see from the legislative perspective, what can we do to support the governance of this country in such a way that we can enhance press freedom so that at least the next report that is coming will appreciate. Dropping from 30 to 60 should not be something that anybody should be proud of, whether you are in opposition or in government, because it dents the image of the country. It affects our democratic credential, and all of us should get concerned. And for me, I am really, really concerned about this whole matter. And I'll do the bit that I can with my colleagues for us to play our role effectively, oversight role, and ensure that if there is a need for a fresh legislation to ensure that all the state agencies that must be apolitical to promote democracy, we should look at how we do it. It's not just police. The politicization of many state institutions has affected deeply the credentials, the democratic credentials of this country. We should begin to look at how do we ensure that many of these state institutions that are supposed to be independent, that are supposed to be apolitical, really are doing what they're supposed to be doing and doing it right.
Okay, then, we'll have to leave this conversation for now. I'm grateful, Peter Lonchene Tobu, ranking, obviously, one of the members of the Interior and Defense Committee in Parliament, former service personnel as well. But